And I think the most impactful bill that I'll start off with was the Amendment 4 implementation. Now, if you remember, Amendment 4 was the constitutional amendment that allowed for ex-felons to be able to vote. And so there were a lot of people that were excited about that. There were people that worked hard to get that on the ballot and to get it passed. It passed with, I believe, 65% of the vote. And just to give you a little bit of background on that, a man named Desmond Meade, who really was the driving force behind this initiative, we had worked hard together last election cycle to get this passed. And I called him on election day to congratulate him that it passed, but I said to him, you realize that the Florida legislature is going to do all they can to invalidate this. And the reason why I believe that was the case was because you're talking about 1.8 million ex-felons now being able to vote. And so you're talking about a dramatic impact on our elections. And so with a governor's race that was only won by 30,000 votes out of over 9 million, and U.S. Senate race that was won by even less, 15,000 or so votes, you're talking about 1.8 million people being added to the rolls. And so I told him, I said, congratulations, but this will not be what you think it will be. And he argued me all night about how it needed no extra implementation. It's self-implementing. And I said, that's all well and good, but I've been in the legislature now for 7 years, and I realized how these things work. And so, just as I suspected, that is what happened. There was every barrier possible put in place to make sure that these folks can vote. So basically, all financial obligations that a person has after incarceration has to be fully met before they can vote. So that's court fees, that's any fines, that's any restitution. And you have to realize every person that comes out of prison will have a financial obligation. Whether, if you have to pay for a public defender, if you had a public defender, you have to pay for the state attorney that had to prosecute you. You have all kinds of court fees. And so my thinking and what my argument was in the legislature was that these folks are just trying to figure out how to get a job, trying to find a place to stay. The last thing that they're thinking about is fulfilling these obligations to be able to vote. Now, most people that have, they have a payment plan. And so I see, I think, an attorney here or a judge here, but they have a payment plan, and they usually can't. I mean, it may be $25 that they are paying a month, and so for them to fulfill the entire obligation, most people won't fulfill it in their lifetime. And so the legislature, I believe, do that, and it was intentional. And my personal opinion and what I have stated to folks is that if you look at the history of Florida, I believe that Florida has the worst record of voter disenfranchisement in this country by far. By far, it's not even close. If you look at the history, if you look at the creation of our Florida government, when slaves were freed, after slavery, you had all of these slaves who outnumbered white folks, to be honest. And so what happened was, there was vagrancy laws put in place, there were literacy laws in place to not allow for these folks to vote. They were rounded up by those vagrancy laws, and at that point they put in a lifetime ban for voting. And that law that they passed in the 1800s, at the very beginning of our government, lasts for up until last year. And so what the legislature did basically is to continue that legacy of disenfranchisement to make sure folks do not vote. So it is my opinion that that was the most impactful piece of legislation that passed this last session.